Y'all ready to head off the trails? I'm the Cryptid Huntress, Jessica Jones, and I'm ready to take you on a mysterious journey right now. We welcome you to Off the Trails right here on the Spaced Out Radio's YouTube channel. If you guys haven't hit subscribe yet, please do. We would love to have you do that. Shout out to Bumblefoot for that awesome intro music. I always appreciate that. And I would love for you guys to follow us on all of our social media sites. We have Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. You guys can find me at thecryptidhuntress.com. And also, I have an amazing little Patreon over there. It's the Cryptid Huntress. If you guys would like to support what I'm doing, and also my shop, War Woman Goods. By the way, we have a Patreon for Spaced Out Radio now. I believe it's called the Space Travelers Club. Okay, so you guys go over there and subscribe to that Patreon. There's all sorts of really cool gifts and things that Dave's planning on sending out for that. And also, I've been asked to plug our Reno, Nevada trip. We're going to have the Spaced Out Radio fan party in Reno next year. That is May the 10th through the 12th. So you guys put that on your calendar. My gosh, we had a blast last year. I say last year. It was like a couple of months ago. This year we had a blast, and it was a lot of fun. I hope you guys will join us again next year. It's going to be just as fun, if not more fun, or funner, as I like to say down here in the South. It's funner. Okay. All right, y'all. Well, we have a fantastic show tonight. My friend Bob O'Kelly is here in the studio with me tonight. Don't forget that right after this show, After Hours has a fantastic program set up for you guys. So be sure to check them out right after our show is over tonight. All right. So it is not entirely uncommon or out of the question for soldiers who are returning from war to come home talking about seeing monsters. Okay. And I'm not talking about other people that are monsters. We're talking about cryptids. Okay. And creatures of the night. But there's one sighting that is pretty popular and we've heard a good bit about, and that would be in Vietnam. During the Vietnam War, some of the soldiers came home talking about encountering what they called rock apes. Okay, the rock apes of Vietnam. It's one of their most interesting cryptids, in my opinion. And my guest tonight had a run-in with at least one rock ape while he was in Vietnam. His name is Bob O'Kelly, and Bob O'Kelly is a family friend, and my family's known him for quite a while. Okay. And so tonight, Bob O'Kelly is here. He grew up in Atlanta. He graduated from the University of West Georgia in 1970 and was immediately drafted into combat in Vietnam. Most of his early adult life was spent in Atlanta selling building materials. Later in life, he owned a residential construction company. In his late 50s, he was employed by the military contractor KBR as a truck driver in Iraq during the recent war there. It was there he wrote his first book, The Original Baby Boomer, and his second, Bad Roads for Good Men. The Original Baby Boomer is a novel about his experiences in Vietnam. Bad Roads for Good Men is a novel about his experiences driving a truck during the Iraq War. Oh man, that's dangerous. On return to the States, he retired to Carrollton, Georgia, where he now lives. Since retiring, he has written 4 more novels, all under the pseudonym Roland O'Connor. All his books are available on Amazon. So you guys, please go check those out. We'll talk about his books at the end of the show. But please help me welcome to Spaced Out Radio for the first time ever, my friend Bob O'Kelly. Hey, Bob. Let's see. Maybe, did he not come up? There we go. Yeah. Hey, Bob.
There we go. So,
there we go. I gotcha. Surprise. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing very well.
Good.
Very well.
Thanks
I'm up
for being here. It is. It's kind of late. I know, but I think I got you prepped for it. I gave you fair warning. We're going to be up late tonight. You better drink that coffee.
Today, you know.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You're just a joy to have on. I know you came on my channel, the Cryptid Huntress, and we talked about some of your encounters over there. But I think that this deserves a bigger audience. You have such a fantastic story, and I can't wait for you to share it with my audience here at Spaced Out Radio tonight. And you've even written a brand new book. It hasn't been published yet. Completely, but you have some fascinating stories, and everything that you're interested in is kind of stuff that I'm interested in too. Okay,
yeah,
absolutely.
not only do I have a rock ape or Bigfoot type creature story, I'm interested in remote viewing, and I've written a novel that includes some of that. It's a
Yeah.
novel, though, and a kind of conspiracy theory. My first two books were more or less autobiographical, and then the only thing that holds that in common, a thread that runs through all of them, is conspiracy, one way or the other. A
Oh.
community
Oh yeah.
assassination. One is kind of a local conspiracy, and then who wrote Shakespeare and remote viewing and things like that. So,
Well, okay, Bob, I could not believe it when I first met you. We were hanging out at a local watering hole with my family was there.
yeah,
I think it was somebody's birthday,
yeah.
and I met you
It's a
there, and we
pleasure.
were just we happened to be sitting beside each other, and one of us brought up remote viewing. It was
Yeah,
odd because I don't ever meet anybody that remote views just out
yeah.
in public.
Well,
Yeah.
um, I first heard about it on the Art Bell show, and I drove a truck at one point in my life, and I would schedule everything around the Art Bell show. I would drive in the middle of the night so I could listen to it. And my favorite thing was the remote viewing, and he had a lot about that too. And all the big names in remote viewing were on his show. I would assume some of them had passed away by now. And so, I was interested in that. And then one day I was fooling with my computer and I came across a online remote viewing course, and I took it. And
Oh yeah.
and then you got this. I think it's called Site Monkey or something. They give you, it's a website, and they give you a number, and you remote view it, and then you click it again, and it gives you the picture of what you were remote viewing. And I was blown away by how successful I was, and so I wrote a novel that included that. And it's in this novel. Um, these students come to believe that Edward de Vere wrote Shakespeare, and they use, one of them's a historian and one of them's an English major actress, and they use remote viewing to go back in history to see if they can find something to prove it. And I don't know why historians don't do this. Maybe they do. If I was a historian, I would do it. And I may not tell everybody I did it, but I would do
Yeah.
it and see what I could find out. And
Oh yeah. Yeah, you
so,
don't want everybody to know you're a remote viewer, and that's something that I learned the hard way.
well, if you
Uh,
said that in academic circles, they just, oh no.
exactly. Well, even in the Bigfooting community, it was harder for me to come out publicly as a remote viewer than it was a Bigfoot researcher.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, because I was too woo for some of
Well,
those
there's so
people, is
much
what they called me.
scientific evidence
Y-
behind
Uh-huh.
remote viewing. Is you're not going to be 100%, but you can get a good percentage of it,
That's
and
right.
it just works, and they know it works. And when the
It does.
CIA said they quit doing it, I do not believe them. I think
Well,
they still do it.
you're into conspiracy theories, so of course you don't. I don't either. I believe they still do it,
Yeah.
absolutely, and I know that I do it. I'm a pretty well accomplished remote viewer at this
Well,
point because I do it all the time.
I don't do it all the time, but I was able to do it. And the pictures that are in the book is called Edward de Vere Remote Viewing Society. And the pictures that are in the book are not the same pictures, but they're representations as close as I could draw them again of what I viewed, what I drew, and then the picture next to it of what it was. One of them, I drew the lines and I went, it didn't mean anything. And then when I looked at the picture, it was the Golden Gate Bridge, and I had all the supports and things in the right place.
Oh wow,
And I was
you
shocked.
were on target. You were
I
on
was
target,
on
and
target.
that's people don't understand how psychic they really are, and
I know. I don't
and
think so
I
either.
people don't understand. And I try to encourage people to tap into their psychic abilities. That's one
Yeah,
of my missions. Yeah, is to do
yeah.
that. Cat Chaser, thank you for that super sticker. I appreciate that. We appreciate you at Spaced Out Radio. Yeah, and so Bob, okay, what how did you get so enlightened? Okay, did it have anything to do with your experiences that you had back when you were in Vietnam? And now I really want to talk to you about your experience in Vietnam. And so, first of all, thank you for your service to our country, and also, please tell my audience your story with that, and from getting drafted right out of college
Yeah, I
to
got
go fight in Vietnam, to even that evening where you had to fire upon something that was coming at you,
yeah.
and it turned out to potentially be a rock ape.
Yeah. Well, yeah. As soon as I live in Carrollton, Georgia, and I went to college in Carrollton, Georgia, and it's just more or less a coincidence that I'm back here. I retired here partly because it's just so much cheaper than Atlanta, and I love this town. I have a good time. But when I left West Georgia, I was graduated in December, and I was in the Army by February, and and 6 or 8 months later, I was in Vietnam, and I was new, and I was in the infantry. I got the full 9 yards. I wasn't lucky about what I drew as a job, and so I'm on my early mission. I can't remember for my first, but it was first or second, and I was really green. And we're out in the jungle, and it's night, and we are circled like circle the wagons. We're in a perimeter, sleeping. Somebody's up, but most of the guys are asleep, and it was my turn to be up, and I'm just sitting there with my rifle, just listening, and I hear something walking, and walking is key here, and I can't really see, and I wake up a more experienced guy, and I said, I said, what is that? And he says, it's walking. I said, I know it's walking, and he says, headed this way, and he said, shoot that. I won't say what, and I fired my weapon into the dark, and this creature jumps kind of over me and into the perimeter. The captain we were with the company commander, and he had set up a jungle hammock, they call it. It's a hammock, with a cover over it and all that. The creature flipped him over and dumped him on the ground and ran out the other side. Okay. This is one thing that makes me credible, is because I didn't know what I'd seen. I went 50 years without knowing what I'd seen. I knew there were rock apes. I heard the Marines talk about them. And then I watch a lot of YouTube, and I don't know what it is about men my age, but we're fascinated with World War II. And I watch a guy all the time named Mark Felton, and he's a well-known historian YouTuber. And he did mostly World War II, but he did some things about Vietnam. And he did one about rock apes. And I just clicked on it, and I was going, yeah, I remember that, rock apes, And I did not know for 50 years that there are no apes that walk in Vietnam. Everything that's like that, it swings in trees, right? Wow. And so I had heard about the rock apes from the Marines, and in this documentary, the North Vietnamese soldiers saw them, the Viet Cong saw them, and we're not talking 2 or 3 people here. We're talking a bunch of people, and it's not like one guy's in the woods and sees these. These are seen by multiple people at the same time. The Viet Cong saw them. The Aussies saw them. We saw them, both the Marines and the Army. But when I saw one, I was like, okay, a gorilla ran across the camp. I didn't know there were no apes that walked in Vietnam until I watched this video. And I went, oh my God, that was a rock ape, and I had no idea what I'd seen. So, I don't remember for sure, but the term Bigfoot and all, it came out. You can know better than me. People began to look for that in the early. I know it's been there forever, but became popular to look for in the early 70s.
late 60s, I think, is
Like,
when
see,
Patty was
well,
filmed.
I
Yeah.
may have heard the term Bigfoot, but it wasn't in my consciousness, you know.
Yeah.
And
It was
I
not
didn't think
popular, though.
anything about it. And the first book I wrote was very autobiographical. It's a novel, but it's autobiographical. And I what was I going here? I just the novel. It's very autobiographical, and I mentioned this incident in it, but I just kind of blew over it because it wasn't that significant. I treated it as though it was funny, because it was, flipping the captain out and all that. But I didn't go, oh my God, I saw a rock ape. If you read the book, the original Baby Boomer, and it's under the name Roland O'Connor, which is my pen name, and it's in there, but it's not in there as, oh my God, I saw a Bigfoot. It's just mentioned, but I had no idea what I'd seen until
Later.
To the Mark Felton thing, and
that's 50 years
Mark
later.
Felton, he is a well-known historian. Now, he doesn't come out and say it's true, but he presents so much evidence that it is true that it's kind of hard to deny it, And so if there are rock apes in Vietnam, and I guarantee you there are, why not elsewhere, And and I was on the phone with my brother tonight, and he asked the question, well, why don't they ever find the bodies? And I just said, well, my brother's name David. I said, well, David, Mark Felton addressed that in his thing. In the jungle, nothing lasts very long. When something's dead, it's going to be gone in 2 or 3 days, with everything from, I don't know if they have buzzards over there or not, but there's plenty of things that are going to eat the carcass quick. So there's not much hope of ever finding one. Another thing Mark Felton mentioned was tigers. And the day or the week before I went out on my first mission, all the guys that were in my platoon were waiting on pictures to come back because they had killed a tiger. And I saw the pictures of the tiger. And Mark Felton mentioned that in this area there were tigers, and he had a map, and it was exactly where I was, exactly. And we'd killed a tiger, except I wasn't there that day, and saw the Bigfoot, and that's exactly what was going on there when I was there too, And
wow, that's terrifying. I mean,
oh yeah,
there were so many things that were terrifying for you. Not only just being a young man, being sent over there, drafted into the military, went straight into combat, and you're worried about the enemy potentially killing you, but you have to worry about tigers and all the creatures in the jungles.
But I wasn't worried about tigers. I really wasn't.
You weren't? Okay.
No, I just they were the least of my worries.
Yeah, I get
but
that.
I do understand that some GIs were attacked by tigers in Vietnam. Don't put that in the Bible, but I'm pretty sure that's accurate.
Oh yeah, well, I have actually for the audience. I figured maybe I'd read a couple of excerpts from some of the research that I've done on the rock apes, so we can kind of give a description of what the rock apes look like. And I have some pictures to show, like some drawings of some sketches of what they could potentially have looked like. And I know that from what you've described to me in the past, some of these sketches look pretty on point. I think here's one drawing that someone did. So the rock ape is the name given to creatures spotted by multiple American soldiers during the war, of course. Before the Vietnam War, stories were going around about the jungle people. Now, the jungle people were bipedal and ape-like, standing about 6 feet tall, very stout, very muscular. They had protruding stomachs, okay, and they were covered in hair that was either brown or black, with the exception of their knees, their feet, their hands, their faces. Those were all hairless. They tended to live in more isolated, remote areas of the jungle, keeping to themselves. And if a human happened to come in contact with them, they would become very aggressive and would attack them immediately. They were most active at dusk or during the night. And if they traveled in packs. Okay. And so that's kind of similar. They look like a human kind of, but also like
that's
a monkey or an ape.
That's more detail than I could see in what I saw, but that picture would cover it. Yeah. You know.
Wow. Well, there's several different pictures of these rock apes.
That's
of what
a little more like what I think I saw. I noticed it has hair on its chest, and the other one didn't. I couldn't tell you.
Well, it was dark. It was dark. And did it lob a rock at you or anything? Because they say these things threw rocks.
I didn't do that. But they were famous for, that's how they got their name. When the Marines first encountered, the Marines were the first to encounter them. And then they threw rocks at them. And that's how they got their name.
Yeah. Well, I have a quick story that we can talk about as well, because you said the Marines encountered them too. But I actually have an account from the 101st Airborne Division.
Well, they were right up above us. So
were they?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, they were saying so this is out of a book published by Craig P.J. Jorgensen called Very Crazy GI, Strange but True Stories Out of the Vietnam War. He said this particular unit was taken to rest when in the trees about 15 yards uphill from them suddenly the trees began shaking violently. Given their environment, the soldiers assumed the shaking was caused by the enemy, and they needed to immediately prepare to be under attack. However, as they watched the trees, they saw what looked like something that had an oblong head and a face covered in reddish hair, possessing a huge mouth and dark, deep-set eyes had emerged from the brush. When it fully emerged, the soldiers were able to get a better look. They saw it was about 5 feet tall, very muscular, covered in matted reddish hair. It stood on 2 legs and examined the soldiers just as they examined it. The soldiers argued over whether or not the creature might be an orangutan, and then it retreated back into the jungle. The captain said, "Do not fire on the creatures. Instead, they should throw rocks at it," is what he told them.
Yeah.
But that backfired because the creatures began throwing the rocks back at them.
Yeah.
At that point, the Marines guessed there were hundreds of these creatures, too far overwhelming an amount to stick with their current plan. So they were told to use their bayonets to fight, like face-to-face combat, hand-to-hand combat. But it sounded like an epic battle was going on. Apparently, the Marines killed a bunch of these things, and left their bodies dead out in the field. And their bodies littered the battlefield. So this happened according to some eyewitness accounts.
Well, that's more detailed than anything I heard when I was over there, but I did hear more or less the same story.
So you did.
I think too. Some of these, I think the creature that I saw was more like 5 feet tall than 6 feet tall, maybe somewhere in the middle. But so he said it was 5 feet tall.
About 5 feet.
With that, but maybe a little taller than that.
Okay, so this actually got a name. It was called the Battle of Dong Den. Okay,
Really?
they called it that. Yeah, that was in this book.
I didn't know.
So it went down in history. So yeah, I mean, it makes you wonder, because there's so many different types of Sasquatch. What I consider to be Sasquatch all over Asia. Okay, we have, like in Nepal, we have the Yetis. We have the Yeren in China. There's all sorts of different names for them, but they all are very similar.
Oh man, where's that in Tibet?
That's right.
Or whatever.
Yeah, the Yeti. Yeah, that would be in Nepal, I guess.
Yeah.
All over the world. I mean, I'm a Bigfoot field researcher. I've seen Bigfoots. Okay, we have them all over the country, here in the United States, up in Canada, even down in South America, Central America. They're everywhere.
I wouldn't be surprised at all, especially in South America. Some of that jungle is so thick. That's another thing I kind of learned from the Mark Fountain thing. I did not realize that the jungle we were in, it rarely had any human beings ever been there. I just assumed somebody was there sometime, But no, so there was plenty of room for them to exist and not be known. And I also believe in Indonesia, they did just recently capture a that fit the description, and they hadn't known was there before. So it happens.
I mean, they're coming up with new discoveries all the time. Now, in my opinion, I think that our governments, our militaries have had full knowledge of all of these creatures, of the Sasquatch types for a while now. So you guys were absolutely not debriefed on any of these
No, nobody
apes
ever
or ape creatures.
No, they
Okay.
didn't ask us about it at all that I recall.
Huh. Well, that's interesting. Well, that's really cool that you encountered that. I know it was terrifying. Now, how long were you stationed in Vietnam? How long did you stay there?
I wasn't there quite a year. I got an injury to my eye. It wasn't really a combat wound. I didn't get a Purple Heart or anything, but they sent me home because I was going to lose my left eye. It's just that simple. But I didn't.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's it. Well, it's actually a good thing that you didn't have to stay over there more than a year. That's a long time. I mean, to be in combat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It changed me. It's just, but a lot of people, it actually it just changed. It didn't break me, it made me better. Actually, the self-discipline that I have, and I can trace all that back to the military and stuff, and I do have good self-discipline. So it made me more aware of how things really are, and how nice and how well we have it here.
Oh yeah.
Compared to lots of places. But I tell you another thing. Yeah. Was I would encounter the Vietnamese, and I liked them, to be honest with you. And some of them were living these simple lives in grass huts, and to me, it looked like that's the way you ought to live, not like we do with all this stress and pressure and everything. And they didn't seem unhappy to me. Here we would call it poor, but they didn't. I don't think they thought of themselves as poor,
Oh no! Wow. Yeah, it's what life is. What you make of it, really. And some of the richest people don't have a whole lot of money. That's what I found.
The richest people are miserable.
And the richest people with money are the miserable ones, probably. Yeah, they got more bills.
Yeah. So one wealthy man told me, he said, it's exactly the same thing as when you don't have money as when you do. You just add more zeros to the bills you can't pay. I mean,
that's right.
Stay on the, on the verge all the time. You're not ready to. You're just not happy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, yeah, it was Long Island Bigfoot. He's in the chat today. That's my friend Mike. He did at least one tour in Afghanistan, and maybe more. I don't remember how many, but he went through it, and he's talking about 1 year that turns into many years of reclamation to society, and it's got to be super tough.
If I was having trouble, I didn't know it. You know what I mean? True. I got divorced, and I'm not too good at being married.
No, a lot of people aren't. Okay, that's pretty common.
And my career was sketchy, to say the least. I've done everything from be a stockbroker to drive a truck, and.
And it's not just any truck. You were driving trucks in Iraq. I mean, you went back recently. Like it hadn't been that long ago. Yeah. What made you want to do that? That's dangerous, Bob.
I don't know. Boredom, I guess.
You need that excitement.
Was in Ocala, Florida, filling up my truck, and I heard two guys talking, and one of them said, "Oh, so and so just got back from Iraq. He drove a truck over there, made all this money and everything." And I said, and I just listened. I didn't say anything to him. And then when I called home that night, I was married then, and I said to my wife, expecting to hear her say, "Oh, hell no." I said, I ought to take a job in Iraq. I can drive a truck, and I'm a combat veteran. And she just had two friends. She worked for the people that manage Lake Altoona. I know you know where that is.
Oh yeah, I was
And
at the lake today.
it's
I
a
know those
government
lakes.
lake, a dam, and all that.
Mhm.
And she worked for a government contractor that ran that thing. And two of her friends had gone over there, and they'd just gotten back that day. And they were telling her how much money she made and how, and she said, maybe that isn't a bad idea. So when I got home, I went online at KBR and put in an application. 3 hours later, they called me, and tentative to background check, they hired me. So
Whoa.
on January 1st of 2006, I got on an airplane and went and was trained and went over there and did that. And it was between the time I took the job and went over there, things kind of went downhill, and it was a little rougher than I thought it was going to be. I'll be honest about that. But I like working around the other men. I like the camaraderie. I like the cooperation, getting things done, and all that kind of stuff. And I was well suited for that type of life. Had I known about being an expat out of the country, working for the oil fields or whatever, when I was younger, I would have been well suited to do that, but I didn't know it until I was older. I was 59 years old when I went over there. So, but you know what? The average age, that wasn't all that. I was a little old, but the guys that were working there were not young. They were mostly pretty old, So.
Oh yeah. Well, okay. So you were when you would drive a truck, you said earlier tonight that you would listen to Art Bell, and
Oh, yeah.
Art Bell is one of my favorites. And you love the
Oh,
remote
yeah.
viewing shows. I love the time traveler shows and Mel's Hole, of course. And I do base my shows for my remote viewing. My friend Barry gives me blind remote viewing targets that correlate to a lot of the Art Bell shows, and including Bugs, the man who claimed to have shot two Sasquatch and buried them out in Texas. And so I have a really soft place in my heart there for Art Bell
Also,
in all of his shows. Now
he was a master.
Yeah.
At this stuff, and sometimes you can even pull them up on YouTube and listen to the old Art Bell shows. And like I said, I scheduled my day. I would drive the truck, go park, go get loaded somewhere, and then that would usually be in the afternoon. Drive a few hours and then go to the truck stop and sleep. And I would get there early where I could get a parking place without having to be the super truck driver backing in between two trucks in the dark that are, with 6 inches on each side. And then I would just get up and listen to Art Bell all night and just drive all night. And then when the sun came up, the guys in the rest areas would leave, and I'd pull in one of those holes and take another nap and then keep on going, And I just really enjoyed that show. It was really, he was really good. When I hear that theme music, I just get all excited.
I know. I think a lot of us do. We all do, because I think that really it was really great if you couldn't sleep at night and you turned the radio on the alarm clock radio by my bed. I'd listen to it when I was in college, and listen to Art Bell late at night, and people driving late at night. It did help us all stay up late. There's nothing like it.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I have to ask you this question too. Since you were in Iraq, the Middle East holds a lot of paranormal and supernatural stuff, okay, including something that I'm very familiar with, the Giant of Kandahar. That was in Afghanistan, not Iraq. But did you have any kind of experiences when you were in the Middle East working as a truck driver that were supernatural?
Uh, it's kind of hard to say. And I say this like this. One night, well, it could be that this is not supernatural, but things kept blowing up in front of us. And it was like maybe there was a satellite, maybe somebody was, I don't know what, but it seemed like everywhere we'd go, there'd be an IED in the road and it'd blow up before we'd get there. And it was just kind of strange. And but I thought, well, maybe the satellites and they'd look. I don't know, but it was just one of those nights when it was like, I don't know, it was very strange. And it's where I was though, and I'm fascinated by this since I've been there. Wish I had known more when I was there, but I was right where the Assyrian Empire was, and all of that. Yeah. And we could see the ruins and stuff like that. And that gets into the Anunnaki and all that. And there's what is the guy's name? Paul Wallace. Have you ever heard of him?
Oh yeah.
Huh?
I've heard that name. I've heard that name before.
He's a preacher. He's an Anglican preacher, and he has decided that a lot of the legends we take as not true are true, and there's a lot of people that feel that way. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I'll raise both hands too. Yeah, I believe that too.
The Bible calls God Yahweh. Well, as far as he's concerned, that is a space alien, and he makes a strong case too. And then you got the stories of the Anunnaki and all that, and all that was in that area, and it is I don't know. It has a different feel about it. It's a different vibe. I've gotten sensitive to vibrations in my old age, and it's just a whole different vibe over there.
Okay. Well, how did all the things that you've experienced in your prior things you've done in your life? You are such a spiritually evolved human now, and I know that just from. You go to yoga every day and stuff. You are so active with that, and you are just very enlightened.
I am,
But you can move like a 30-year-old. What kind of flexibility you got?
With the coffee shop the other day, which I go there every day too. One of the guys told another guy that I could move like a 30-year-old woman.
Like a 30-year-old woman. Dang, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. So that's awesome. But you've experienced so much in your life, and you've been through so much. From the highest, I got to think you've the Vietnam War. To be a combat veteran, you've seen it all. You've seen a lot.
Yeah.
And it has made you a very wise man. Okay. I do you think that? And knowing you didn't know anything about those rock apes when that was happening to you and stuff.
That's why my story's credible, because I didn't even know what I'd seen myself.
I know, right?
I am. It's kind of bragging, I suppose, but I'm pretty much awake, and then I don't mean woke. I mean awake. And
you're awake. You are awake.
And that's what my latest book is about, kind of a great awakening on earth. This book is ready. I've got some personal things I need to do before I publish it. And so I want to get those. It'd be nice if it was already available, but it's not, because I got to take care of some things. And I want to do a little better job of the marketing. I don't care who your publisher is, unless you're one of the really big ones. You're going to do your own marketing yourself, even if you're with Rand McNally or whatever. That's the map company, isn't it?
That's the textbooks. Yeah, I remember them from school. It's been a while.
No matter who you're with, you're going to do your own marketing unless you're one of the really big guys, I can't think of her name. Bigfoot. I mean, Harry Potter.
Harry Potter.
She
Oh
doesn't
yeah, I
have
know that
to
one.
do her own marketing.
Yeah.
But,
Well,
so
that's why I'm
I
here to
wanted
help
to
you.
get some
I'm here to
things
help
in
you, bring
place.
you on shows and stuff. So we're gonna get your books out there, Bob. So people, yeah, I think that you have so much knowledge, and your books are great. I mean, I've read your Edward de Vere, the remote viewing book,
Yeah.
that the Remote Viewing Society. That's a great book, and you just sent me over your new book. It hasn't been published yet.
It is a good book, but so many people don't even know it has a very kind of restricted market. I know, the people listening to this know, but the general public, they just go, "What's remote viewing?" And
well, it's getting out there more though now, Bob. And when I first started talking about remote viewing, I got laughed at, and people rolled their eyes at me, and they're like, "Oh,
I don't know. People are so." I hate to put it this way. Well, I don't hate to put it this way. It's just the truth. People are very materialistic, and if it's not matter, it doesn't exist, and that's just not true. And
that's right.
So.
Well, but the CIA utilized remote viewing, okay, and I believe they probably still do. I mean, our government.
I don't believe I think it's more common. I think police departments are doing it more and more too.
I mean, I've actually remote viewed some things potentially for police departments, okay, and it's stuff that my team has done, and it's missing persons cases, cold cases.
Yeah, that's what
that's what we're utilized for, absolutely, and they take our data, and some of my team, I have located people before, and they're all deceased, every one of them that I've found so far, except for some of the people that I know that were kind of missing. They had just gone out for a walk and didn't call their wife back or something. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, but yeah, I get emergency calls sometimes where people are like, "You got to help me locate somebody," but yeah, locating the place where the body is, exactly what happened to them. I'm able to do a deep mind probe on them to find out who hurt them, where are they located, what happened, and I get information. Okay. And it's legitimate stuff. And I may not get results that day to find out, like, well, was I right or was I wrong, or what was even my target? Because they're blind targets. But hey, a month down the road, I find out that the body was located, and I was 100% correct with most of my data. Really? So that would be like 99%.
Yeah, well, I can do it, but I think you're much better at it than I am.
Oh, well, thank you. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, everybody's good at it. I've just done more of it than a lot of people than you have.
It's a skill of kind of listening to yourself, and
it is, and trusting yourself.
Distinguishing feelings and energies is.
Yeah, it's important. That's why I have a show where I do remote viewing targets on Thursday nights on my channel, and I think it's such a joy to get to share like remote viewing with people, and to encourage other people to tap into their psychic abilities, Bob, and I think that you encourage people to do the same. So I think that's awesome.
Let me tell you what happened when I was writing this book. I created a character. Okay. Emory University's in Atlanta. My daughter went to school there, in a great school. And I created a character, a male character who's a history major, and a female character who is a theater and English major. And, they're going to chase down who wrote Shakespeare. And I created another character, a male, who was a math professor at Emory, and I didn't want to accuse Emory of, didn't want to get sued, so I wasn't going to say Emory is involved in remote viewing. So
Emory, that's a college here in Atlanta.
Off-campus remote viewing business, right? And I met somebody. Well, here at West Georgia in Carrollton, the college, same college I went to, has a paranormal department, and that's
parapsychology.
Yeah.
Parapsychology.
And I met the head of that, and I was telling her this, and she said, "Well, you must be talking about Corey Brown." And I went, "What do you mean?" She says, "Well, Corey Brown is a math professor at Emory, and he has an off-campus remote viewing business." And I went, "You're kidding." And so in the book, I thought I either got to call Corey Brown and get permission because this is too close. And so I just changed it to a female character and went on, rather than never call. But I was blown away by the fact that there had to be a little psychic going on there for me to come up with that out of the clear blue and it be true, and that was kind of weird.
I think you're referring to Courtney Brown. That's with the Farsight Institute.
What did I say? Corey?
You said Corey, but it was close enough. I had to look it up because I know
Corey, Cody, they're all in.
It's Courtney. I just looked it up. Yeah. He has a really popular YouTube channel, and they do remote viewing. They do remote viewing targets live on air and stuff. And that's a little different than the way I do it in my team. We do it. We actually do these targets. We do it in private, and my team is completely private. They don't do this publicly whatsoever. And I don't do my targets live on air. I'm not trained to do it that way, like Courtney Brown does it. Yeah.
I haven't seen him in a while, but he has a team
of remote viewers. Yeah, good ones.
Did construction of the pyramids too. Have you ever done that?
I did that one actually. That was a blind target. I just did that about this past month, and and let me tell you, I'll just give you a teaser. Okay, it was giants and ETs. ETs in conjunction. I mean, it was a group effort. Okay, a bunch of ETs.
Oh, you think so?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, you can go watch my show. It was a blind target with a lot of cool data.
Oh, it was a blind target?
It was a blind target. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's really the best way to do it. Because if it's not blind, it's not really remote viewing. Then it's just being a psychic,
Right. And, well, yeah. You can get a front loaded target every now and then. It's okay when you've been doing it a long time. But technically, like CRV, coordinate remote viewing, they need to be blind. Yeah. There's different modes of it. So yeah. Well, I'm so tickled that you know about this.
Being blind takes more skill than doing it blind. Because
I love blind targets, man. That's like my favorite thing.
Well, if you know what it is, you have to fight your imagination. Your imagination is battling with your intuition. If you see what I'm getting at. And if you don't know, you can just go slap plain on your intuition, and
yeah, I mean, even when you don't know what the target is, you still have to, your brain still makes to what you're seeing. So that's an issue too, but there's a box to put all that information in. So I can't give a remote viewing course right now, but it's all the same.
You get into,
oh my gosh. A bug in my house.
Discernment about just vibrations and energy flows, things that you just kind of, as you get older, you learn to feel. You just.
Yeah. Do you think that potentially, when you were in Vietnam, and this was back when you were a young man, you really had to become one with nature, right? I would assume you really had to trust your intuition and your gut. And I think that's a lot of what I'm experiencing today is trusting my intuition and going with my gut. But it was like on a heightened level. I have to imagine back then when you were in Vietnam and you had rock apes, coming at you and all that kind of stuff.
And some of the original remote viewers were kind of discovered in Vietnam because they had uncanny abilities to know where the enemy was and all that. And they were put into the government program because they appeared to have psychic abilities. And so.
Wow. Yeah. Well,
what's his name? Monagle. What's his first name?
McMonagle.
You met Monagle. He was one of those. He was a Vietnam guy.
Yes.
And he's like supposedly the world's best, I think.
He was. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of really amazing highly skilled remote viewers out there, and a lot of them are, from like Vietnam era, like
Yeah,
you're 8, you know what I
yeah,
mean? And
yeah. All
yeah,
the
the
guys
head
that
of my
started
team
it were
taught me
maybe
at
a
that age.
little older than me.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. So they've been doing this for a long time. I
oh
mean,
yeah,
they started doing, from what I've been told, they started doing remote viewing and implementing it during the Cold War. Okay, but
yeah,
it might have been even
yeah.
before that, but that's what I've been told.
Well, they were afraid the Russians were doing it, so they said, "Well, we got to do it too." And they got Ingo Swann, who he was like the guy that he was a psychic, and he designed the program. And
Yes.
some of the names are
Yes.
escaping me
Yeah,
right now.
Ingo Swann. That's actually the methods. We use his methods in our remote viewing when I was trained in it, the Ingo Swann method. So,
Oh yeah.
yeah, very, very interesting stuff. Very
Where
interesting.
did
But
you
you're an
train?
interesting man. The head of my team trained me. He had some. Yeah, that's a whole other story. We won't go there.
Okay.
Not right now. But yeah, the head of my Bigfoot team taught me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he trained me for a long time. Our whole team. Yeah. So yeah. But yeah, Long Island Bigfoot. That's a great comment. Remote viewing is the future, and you're just doing it now. That's right. I'm doing it right now. I'm on it, doggone it, and we're putting it out there because I think it is the future. It's the past, the future, and the present,
Yeah.
in my opinion. Yeah, yeah. Well, what? Okay, so Bob,
Hmm.
tell me what you have planned for your future. What tell us about your books, because we've got a few minutes. I know it's
Okay.
going to take a while.
So,
Tell my audience about your books and also where they can find them.
well, they can find them all on Amazon, but it's not under Bob O'Kelly. It's under Roland O'Connor. And
Okay.
uh, like I said earlier, the first book. Okay, when I worked in Iraq, I worked with a whole bunch of young soldiers, and I was amazed at how little they knew what happened to my generation, their generation behind, and with the draft and all. So I said, I'm gonna write a book, and I began to write about. We actually wrote about graduating high school and coming down here to go to college from Atlanta, um, uh, and then the draft is on your back the whole time. If you flunk out, you go in the army, and and also there was huge social change. When I started at West Georgia on the Sundays, when you went to eat, you had to put on a coat and tie. When I
Yeah.
left, everybody had hair down to their butt and co-ed dorms, and the place was wide open. Within 4 years, that was that much change, and that
Wow.
was a bit traumatic. I will, not that it wasn't fun, it was, but uh,
But
it's just a huge change, and I wanted to write about that, and I also wrote about the book starts in Carrollton, and I go to Vietnam and I come back and I have to do all the things necessary to fit back into society. And so I wrote that book. And then the guys in Iraq said, well, if you can write that, why don't you write one about us? We had a lot of downtime over there where I could do this. So I wrote a book about driving a truck in Iraq. That is not a subject that people are like chomping at the bit to know about. But on the other hand, I don't know of anybody that's ever written a book about, they write books about war. They always write books about soldiers in war. They never write books about contractors in war. And it's a decent book. Yeah, it's a pretty good book. And then what
yeah.
did I do? I wrote I wrote the one that I'm not so proud of. You got to have a dog in all of them.
Oh
And
yeah.
and then that's about uh, I don't want to even promote that book. And,
Okay. You can find it on Amazon. Y'all just go
yeah,
look it
well,
up.
even Mark Twain wrote some crappy books. And
Okay.
and so I also here back into conspiracies. Oh yeah, in my hometown, well, Fayetteville, where I lived, is part of Atlanta, suburb of Atlanta, and there was a death. A woman and her baby died in childbirth, and she was a preacher's husband, and the doctor that attended was a deacon in the church. And there was a lot of talk. A lot of people weren't convinced that this was not on. It was on the up and up, right? And
Conspiracies.
Within 3 months, the preacher had remarried, and boy, eyebrows were raised. Now, I'm not saying he did it, but I
You have to read the book, though.
I did
right?
know I'm not using I don't even name the town, you know, because I don't want to be in a lawsuit. But because I don't know that he did it, but in my book, this character did do it, and that's a pretty decent book too, you know.
Yeah.
And so it is a conspiracy, but it's kind of a local conspiracy. The next one was about the Kennedy assassination, because mostly, you know, they teach the history that Lee Harvey Oswald killed Kennedy, and people just accept that now, but nobody believed that in my day. There's no way, you know.
Yeah, totally. I don't believe it. Right.
I think one of the dangers when you're my age is writing for people my age. I have to write for a more broader public than that. So I created a millennial character who discovers that her grandmother worked for Jack Ruby, who everybody my age knows who that is. He's the one that shot Lee Harvey Oswald, and he owned a strip joint, right? And he was involved with the mafia. And this girl discovers that her grandmother was a stripper for Lee Harvey Oswald.
Oh my gosh, Bob! Seriously,
she has knowledge. She had some pictures of the grassy knoll and the gunman and all that.
Oh man!
And the CIA is chasing them, and it's
that sounds awesome, Bob. Thank you so much. Listen, we've run out of time, so I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here with us today at Space Out Radio. And you guys, please go get Bob's books, Bad Roads for Good Men, and the original Baby Boomer. And there's several other books out there. And Bob's got a new book coming out too.
Yeah.
But it's under Roland O'Connor. That's available on Amazon. So you guys go check him out and go get his books. And Bob, I hope that you will come back and hang out with me again.
Okay. Well,
in the near future.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
All right. Awesome, Bob. Thank you so much. I just had a great time with you tonight. So we'll see you soon. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. See you, Bob. All right, y'all. That was awesome. I hope you guys enjoyed having Bob here as much as I did. And you guys, please go hang out at After Hours right after this. They've got a show going on in about 1 minute. I hope you guys will hang out with me this week on my channel, The Cryptid Huntress, where I have live shows every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern, Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. I'll be back here next weekend on Spaced Out Radio. I will be letting you guys know who my guests are this week. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. And until I see y'all again, stay safe out there. Bye, y'all.